Speaking, Brian, of people that have some pretty stupid opinions, have you heard about the issue with Gail Kim? Poor old Gail Kim.
I've tried my best to follow along. It seems like there were a whole lot of tweets. I think I kind of have a general idea of it. I saw some of hers. I saw some of Dave Meltzer's. I saw a rather ignorant one from Kenny Omega, which should be of no surprise. But let's talk about this.
Well, I think I was in the middle of there too, not against my will, but not meaning to bring up a branch office of the subject. What happened apparently was that somebody on Twitter sent out a video of two guys in a junkyard. And there's a bunch of wrecked cars. I don't know if they were completely flattened like they do with the flattenator machine at the junkyard, but they're stacked on top of each other. There's probably 5 or 6 of them, at least. And on the big stack of cars, these two guys are on top of it, and one of them gives the other one a Death Valley driving exploder suplex bomb off of the top of the cars through a pane of glass that is suspended, then I guess a couple of feet above a table with who knows what kind of debris on it, and they break that and stuff flies out, and then they hit the mat. Typical Saturday night at Garbage Wrestling. And Gail, I'm sorry, folks. I need to warn you, this language may be, what does the kids say, NSFW, the language I'm about to use that Gail said. She said, tell me you don't know anything about storytelling without telling me you don't know anything about storytelling. That was it. That was the inflammatory remark, the evisceration, verbal evisceration that she get. It's a stupid clip of stupid people doing stupid shit in front of other stupid people that you see on the internet. Could have been somebody sticking their fucking hand in the lion's cage at the zoo, right? And she commented on it because it was vaguely and peripherally connected to the fucking line of work that she's been in for quite some time. And Brian, not only did the average Knuckle Dragon deathmatch fan respond to her, but it got stirred up by the head garbage guy himself, the owner of Garbage Championship Wrestling, actually responded to her to fire up his little minions in a frenzy. And what's his name? St. Petersburg. And he said, but I'm paraphrasing, but it's the gist of it. Well, I'll have you know that footage was being shot for a documentary by the award-winning director Zabadabada, and through the prestigious production company of Zabadabada, and will be unveiled and debuted in premiere at the glorious Glory Holes down the fucking road. I don't know what the guy's talking to. And it will we create more memorable moments than anything memorable in your career to Gail Kim. This little pea-brain nitwit who's bought his way to the wrestling business by swimming around in more sewage than RFK Jr. is critiquing Gail Kim's goddamn offhand remark about some clip she's seen of two stupid people doing stupid shit.
Pretending like his company is some kind of big success as opposed to the industry-wide joke that everyone we know thinks it is.
Well, there's two people and a woman. There's two kinds of people that have thoughts on his company. Anybody that's ever actually really been in professional wrestling is either offended and insulted by the existence of it, or they're wanting to separate this mark from some of his fucking money. So that's basically two schools of thought. However, that's when.
Wait, forgive me. That's the company that didn't it come out? Was it that they gave Sabu kratom, or they encouraged him to get kratom, or they knew he needed kratom to be able to wrestle his last
there
match?
was, the kratom was in the air. The kratom made a big crater. Yes, they were the company that presented that prestigious last match.
Yeah. And then immediately they came out and said, oh no, kratom's fine. You can get it anywhere. And then right after that, I saw numerous articles about people dying from this truck store opioid. Yeah. So give me a break.
Well, jelly's involved also. And, if you think of the words truck stop opioid, you would think of jelly Nutella. But anyway, when, again, this fucking guy had the nerve to just hop on Gail Kim for something on Twitter. I tweeted her, I said, Gail, it's okay to tell the truth about the death matches, the garbage wrestlers that do them, and the garbage jock sniffers like this one that promote them. You showed more talent in the ring in 15 minutes than any of these cretins in their lives. Don't watch. The smell of trash isn't subjective, because she was, after she got jumped on, but after Brett, the garbage guy, got jumped on, he was backpedaling. So she's trying to make up with him by saying, well, I would watch the documentary and give it a chance. I dislike death matches and always have. Wrestling is subjective. I also like Dutch and Jim Cornette and Al Snow, who he had mentioned, say, don't listen to those washed up, bitter, fucking people like that. The hot dog and a handshake thing. I'm sorry. It's a hamburger and handshake. But anyway, she doesn't understand, because she doesn't live her life 24 hours a day in this world anymore. It's these people are going to argue with her for the sake of arguing. So as soon as she said she liked us, then they started saying, well, don't you? He doesn't like Riho. Why do you like him? Because he doesn't like that. She said, well, I've only seen Riho once, and she's a very small girl dressed like a schoolgirl, and they were shooting camera shots up her skirt. It seemed creepy to me. Oh, goddamn,
ding,
man.
Ding.
They just.
Bingo. Yeah, that's what
Here we go. Now they're like, what the fuck? She gave her honest appraisal of what the normal world sees when they look at this girl. It doesn't mean that she needs to be loaded into a rocket ship and I'm talking about Riho now, loaded into a rocket ship and shot off to the moon. But she's an unconvincing, ridiculous visual as a professional wrestler and has no place on a major television program. And Gail Kim has worked for every major promotion of the last 20 plus years at a high level and looked the part, looked like an athlete. She could have been in one of those goddamn Kill Bill suits in a Tarantino movie. It would have looked fucking badass. Whatever. Instead of a confused child. This is what normal people see and industry veterans see when they are in a position where they give their honest opinion, because they don't need to get booked for garbage wrestling or AEW for that matter. And, Gail is married to Robert Irvine, the celebrity chef, who's opened restaurants and conducted various culinary business around the world. If old garbage wrestling guy had a diner in Jersey over on Whitehorse Pike, do you think that he'd say, well, fuck you, Irvine, come over here and taste my shit on a shingle? You'll never have anything else. What the fuck? So then when she explained what she thought about Riho, Oh goddamn! Then they started coming back on her. Oh, it's terrible. It's so horrible that you think this way and you like these people and you agree with. And she is trying to agree. We can all have a say. It's what's so great about debates and conversations. And you motherfucker, because people are out of their fucking minds.
Well, people are out of their minds, and AEW fans on Twitter especially, and garbage wrestling fans on Twitter especially, tend to be unhinged and unable to accept that their worldview isn't a worldview at all. It's a fringe view of a nutbag. And they started going after Gail Kim, I saw, for Riho was so badly harassed, she had to get off Twitter. Riho's First of all, I'm calling bullshit on that. Riho was not badly harassed on Twitter. No one was showing up at Kenny Omega's house to kidnap Riho. We've seen real women in wrestling deal with harassment and stalkers. So let's stop pretending that's what Riho went through. There's a lot of people that don't like Riho the wrestler. That doesn't mean we hate whoever the fuck she is as a real human being. She's a ridiculous spectacle as a wrestler. And if you don't think like her gimmick is that she's a young girl, she comes out there and just waves to people like a moron then. She's either a young girl or her gimmick is she's a moron.
She's a moron.
And they do shoot her up skirt. It's a really awkward, weird thing because her whole gimmick is she's either a young girl or a moron. So the whole thing doesn't work. And then they try to turn it around and say all these things happened, not realizing they're doing to Gail Kim what they're claiming happened to Riho. They're harassing her. They're really being nasty to her because she doesn't like Riho. So I don't know how it works with these people, but it's sick.
Well, I know it's ridiculous to think is, well, you are taking up for the fact that she was bullied, so I'm going to bully you. But and more on again, you know, when we talk about the teenage girl mentality, we'll get to Uncle Dave in a second. But even this guy's own audience, old garbage championship wrestling fellow, when he tweeted trying to back up from just totally insulting Gail the first time around and said, well, I don't dislike Gail. She's well liked by her peers, and mentioned the old losers like me and Al Snow and Dutch Mantel. She's better than that. His own people got back with him on Twitter. You want to know what they said, Brian?
I didn't see this.
Cornette's more relevant in the industry sitting on his ass in Kentucky than you'll ever be. Your arms aren't long enough for that punch up. Here's another one. Those three men have forgotten more about professional wrestling than you'll ever know. Next one. The only memorable match GCW had was when you nearly had Sabu killed in the ring. Next one. So the truth you don't like, or at least accept opinions, can be different. Because death matches aren't wrestling, they're glorified spot fest. No real art, just shock value. They're his own people. Dude, you're a joke. They've done more than this business than you ever will.
Well, even if we look beyond your work in the business, I'm not going to speak for Dutch or Al Snow, and maybe this kid has an argument in terms of who's a better booker, him or Al Snow. I don't know.
Well, now, okay, to back up on that one. I don't want to give him one.
I'm not going to speak for them, but for you, past your wrestling career and your promoting career and your booking career, either one of these two podcasts is infinitely times more successful than the wrestling company he's been running for years now. So suck on that.
But I mean, it's not even, it's just the idea that he has wormed his way in and filled a niche market by buying his way into running these garbage shows around the world where people can't get too sick of him, and considers himself legitimately in professional wrestling with his freak show bullshit. And I will finish with one other comment. Shut the fuck up. Most of you hardcore deathmatch dipshits, these are the people on Twitter. Fucking hell. It's not even me. You deathmatch dipshits do nothing but worship spectacle and do cheap second-rate knockoff versions of ECW and FMW. You can love it all day long. That doesn't make it good and doesn't mean you know a goddamn thing about wrestling. Jesus Christ, so his people speak. But let's get back to Uncle Dave. Speaking of not knowing a thing about goddamn wrestling, the only takeaway that Dave had from this is, oh, they're making fun of Riho. And he is actually, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but he's actually calling for Gail Kim to apologize.
Well, that's one of Dave's moves. We've seen that with us in the past. The whole well, say you're sorry about this or do this. This is how it works. These are the rules. You will do this or this is the case. And that's just the twisted way Dave's mind works, I think. But it's bullshit. And Dave, of course, will go to the mat any day of the week for Kenny Omega. That's his number one guy. That guy could barely walk right now because he took Dave's advice and wrestled Dave's style. So Dave's not going to have any Riho and Kenny Omega slander.
Well, you got to the heart of it there, because it's not really Dave's taking up that much for Riho's. Dave's taking up for Kenny, because Kenny was taking up for Riho, and Kenny chimed in with, "Is he just really not that fucking quick, not witty, not acerbic, not in any way capable of having a verbal exchange? He just wanders and beats around that bush." He tweeted something to the effect of, "Well, I guess it shows who's doing the splits for their annual TKO gift basket." What the? And by the way, he implies that Gail is spreading her legs for the conglomerate known as TKO. Maybe Irvine's got some arms on him. I think Irvine could knock the fuck out of Kenny, to be honest with you. But he can't even come out and fucking make a goddamn statement like a man. He can't even come out and knock somebody, say somebody's name, make a statement that anybody can goddamn understand, but he still has to get a shot in. Kenny, you're a pussy, just from me to you. But secondly, as soon as he does that, that's when Dave comes in and makes Riho a victim. People don't know the extent of how she was bullied on Twitter. And this whole... bullied on fucking Twitter? How did Twitter pick her up and slap her around? How did goddamn Twitter turn her upside down and shake her for goddamn pocket change? Bullied on Twitter. She's a grown, well, I'm sorry, I won't say grown. She's an adult woman in what did we estimate? She's somewhere around 30, 31 years old at this point. She's well over 18. She just looks like a confused child. So again, what the fuck is Dave's deal? He can't, and he was never mentioned until chiming in and getting on her with a variety of tweets that just harping on the subject.
Again, Dave will go and fight battles for the people he really cares about, whether it's Tony Khan or Kenny Omega or Kenny Omega's Riho. And Kenny Omega shouldn't be making jokes about people doing splits, considering what goes on in that house.
Hey, now.
And Kenny Omega's got a long history, and one day, hopefully, this stuff comes out, because I know a little bit about it, but it's not my place to tell the story. But Kenny Omega has a history in AEW, possibly you could say beyond, of causing drama and causing problems in either text messages or emails, where he says things that are much worse than anything else anyone else said. He implies that Gail Kim, a legend in quotes, is fucking WWE for a gift basket because she doesn't like garbage wrestling and isn't a fan of Riho's ridiculousness. Meanwhile, Kenny Omega, last I heard from people, he was walking around in the back drooling all over himself. So maybe Kenny Omega should shut the fuck up, because the last thing Kenny Omega wants is people finding out about his real behavior and what he really is like behind the scenes.
And since
Where's
and
Brandy?
people like
Where's
me,
Brandy? Let's talk about Kenny Omega.
I and people like me have led to such a backlash against Riho and her compadres that it's just reprehensible, because we don't like their wrestling. We think it looks ridiculous. We think they look ridiculous. And so Dave actually tweets to Gail, listen to this. "Now that you know the backstory on why people were upset, can you at least understand? I defended you as much as possible on my show last night and explained that you probably didn't know the backstory. Now that you do, what is your opinion on the years of horrible bullying that the Japanese women wrestlers received? What is his goddamn? He's an old woman.
And let me stop you right there. I don't think it's the Japanese women wrestlers. I think it's specifically he's talking about Riho and Hikaru
Kenny's
Shida.
Japanese women wrestlers.
It's Shida and Riho he's talking about because that's what Kenny Omega tells him.
The root lies that, again, among the many people that took advantage of Tony Khan several years ago when this whole festive thing got started, was Kenny literally believed that these semi-pro, small indie girl wrestlers in Japan, whether it be the one that dressed up like Freddie Mercury or Riho or whatever, all that they've brought could actually legitimately get over in America on national television. And Kenny refuses to admit that he was wrong. And Tony will obviously, he's been wrong about so many things, it doesn't matter. And they continue to try to do this. And it ain't gonna work. Yes, as we've seen, some people like them, some amount of people like a lot of things. But most people, whether they be the average wrestling fan, of which doesn't particularly watch Riho with great interest, or the average industry professional, is like, what the fuck? Again, that doesn't mean they're horrible people and they need to launch them off the face of the earth, but you can't expect people not to laugh when you do the shit that they've done, the way that they look and the way they've been presented on this television. It's a very, very small group of people that it would make a big difference to. And that's a problem that they just can't see that. And
yeah, and again, if your problem is that Riho and Hikaru Shida have been harassed and the bullying is bad, go look at Gail Kim's Twitter. Go look at the responses she has gotten from the same people that allegedly have a problem with the alleged bullying that Kenny Omega's friends have received.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. Also, I think Gail is going to respond and react, and she already has. And she's laughing with Helms, like, Helms, did we get a gift basket? And because she doesn't care, because she lives in a real world now and has successfully prospered. It doesn't matter to her what they say on Twitter. But here's the thing I was going to say with, again, it's more Kenny's fault. I'll say this, hold your point. It's more Kenny's fault than anything that these girls have endured any verbal abuse from fans or whatever, because he put them in the position to be ridiculed because they are ridiculous. And he put them on a wrestling show in America on television. We're not talking about major goddamn Japanese talent here. We're talking about indie girls from wherever the fuck indie girls work in Japan these days.
They're his friends.
That are his friends.
That's what it is.
And so it's Kenny's fault, but at the same time, if you're going to be on TV or in any type of entertainment business, then no, you should not have to put up with people stalking you and showing up at your house, or people following you around in person when you're in public, or ambushing you at the airport. But if you can't put up with people writing bad shit about you, whether it's the goddamn newspaper or now modern day social media, you picked the wrong line of work, ladies and gentlemen. Whichever, if you take it seriously, you don't need to be doing this shit. And that goes for the last 125 years of life. Jesus.
You know, I don't know how much longer you want to go through this. I could do this all day, but Dave obviously looks like a fool throughout this thing. And again, it comes down to him acting like he's somehow the almighty figure telling you what you need to do to fix the thing. Go look at his behavior on social media. You want to talk about people that have caused a tribalism and people that don't know how to conduct themselves with the general population on Twitter. Go look at Dave Meltzer's Twitter. It's an obsession for him.
Somebody just put out something that he wrote back in the Attitude Era about Sable, where he said, something to the basically effective, of course, her boob job is the whole appeal, but otherwise she looks like a middle-aged stripper.
Let's send that to Brock and let's see how that works out. But the one other thing I did want to say, because I thought it was ridiculous, and this is where you can have ridiculous conversations. Remember in the early days of AEW when you ripped on Marco Stunt for the spectacle that he was? And the response from, I think, Dave was, well, Rey Mysterio was only 5'4". It's the same thing when people are comparing Gail Kim versus Awesome Kong to anything with Riho. Anyone's bigger than her, so except Mercedes Moné. Any of the matches are Riho versus Nia Jax or anyone bigger. It's not the same thing. Don't compare Gail Kim to Riho just because they're both Asian. That's racist. They're not the same. Gail Kim looked like an athlete.
Bruce Lee was 140 pounds. It's the physical conditioning, the look, the aura, the charisma, and the way you carry yourself. And again, you could either look like a professional and an athlete, or you can look like a confused little girl going to school, no matter what age you are. You know, some of these people, Brian, I think they need to find a new line of work real quick, don't you? Some way or another. They need to find some other thing to do to generate income, possibly outside the public sphere, as they say. Wouldn't you agree?
Based on what we know and what you're telling me, yeah, I think there's a bunch of people in this conversation who need to find another occupation or maybe just create a new business. I guess would be the better example to use here.
There you go. Well, they could find a new line. Creating a new business is finding a new line of work. Because now you're if they're so convinced of their worth, then they ought not, like Kenny. If he knows if he's got his finger in the youth of America and he knows what the pulse is on the fucking patootie of the average person, and he knows how to appeal to their entertainment needs and wants, that's what he ought to do. He ought to start his own booking agency instead of taking his billionaires' money. He ought to bet on himself and go and branch out and start representing. He could get Hikaru Shida and Riho and Emi Sakura and all the rest of them booked. And maybe they could be one of those cleaning services where they come over and clean your house with the feather dusters while wearing their schoolgirl and Freddie Mercury outfit. Have you ever seen Freddie Mercury and a Japanese schoolgirl clean a house with a feather duster, Brian?
I don't know how comfortable I am with any of this. I don't plan to see that.
I'm just saying,
hope not to see that. I will not see that, no.
That's something you'd have to pay to see because you never see it for free. Well, if Kenny went to Shopify, our friends over at the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, 10% of all the e-commerce in the United States, and that's a very large slice. If he went to them, he'd say, hey, look, I can book these off-brand Japanese indie girls over to people's houses to dust their house with a feather duster and wear their ring outfits, and I'll take 15%. I won't even go like Moolah did and ask for half. Why, in no time, he'd be rolling in dough, and they'd be fucking coughing in dust. I guess they'd be fucking filthy. But folks, if you've got a great idea like that, you can turn your big business idea into big money. You can hear sounds of money being made like that. More and more money.
More money. More money.
Oh. More. Give me more money. That's more money.
It keeps falling down on me.
It's the money is crushing you that is falling from the sky, ladies and gentlemen.
No music.
Yes, and the screaming from Tiger Inoki. When you want to turn your dreams into reality and make money and turn your business into a success, you need the big people behind you that knows what to do and how to do it, and the people that have that purple button that everybody, I'm telling you, the purple button is the new G-spot, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody wants to finger that thing. And you can too, or your people, your customers can finger your button.
This may not be the best example to...
Well, if your button is hooked up to Shopify, because every time somebody presses that button, you get paid. And it turns your big business idea into money. And the folks at Shopify are happy to help lead you along by the nose every step of the way to smarten you up because they know how to do this stuff. From your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates to content creation, marketing, social media campaigns, and don't forget free house cleaning with feather dusters. Shopify is if you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. And right now, Brian, I'll have you know that you can get a $1 a month trial period. Has anybody not heard about this yet? I can't believe that there's anybody left in the world that has not taken advantage. Even if you don't want to sell anything, just make friends with these people. Sign up for the $1 a month trial period. And then, then you're in and they'll hang out with you and you guys can go out and talk about life. Maybe you can confide in some of the Shopify personnel about, your romantic issues and problems in your relationship. They'll listen because you're paying them. Even though it's only $1 a month, that's why it's a trial period.
Well, again, ladies and gentlemen, let's focus on the realities of this. You may have a business. You may need good online help. You may need someone to help you with your store. You may need someone you could trust. We trust and
yes,
we
you just maybe need somebody to talk to. The problems with the health in your family.
There's someone else for that.
Sometimes these things weigh down. If you just call them and say, hey, let's meet over at Beef O'Brady's. And let's talk about these things. They have to come because you're paying them $1 a month.
Listen, that's not how it works, but whether it's Beefsteak Charlie's or PJ O'Rourke's, doesn't matter. You need to make sure that your business is in business and doing things the right way with a partner you can trust like we do for our online store, ArcadianVanguard.com. You could do that for your store, whateverit.com.
Yes. And whateverit.com, I've got that locked down for 2 more years because I figure one of these days somebody's going to figure out. But nevertheless, folks, right now, if you want to lock things down, go to Shopify.com/JCE, Shopify.com/JCE for that $1 a month trial period where you can start selling and making money today. At Shopify.com/JCE with Shopify on your side. And once again, have them come over to not Beefsteak Charlie's, Beef O'Brady's. Sit down, have the OMG burger, and unburden yourself to these people. They can help you in a variety of, and many of them are licensed pastors and therapists, where they're used to hearing the worst dregs of human society spill their guts. So you're not going to shock them. Shopify.com/JCE.